Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to welcome my dear friend Roisin back to my channel for another conversation about what is going on these days. And we're going to take some big, wild, and crazy turns that I couldn't even predict at the beginning of this video. But I'm so happy to have you meet her. Some of you already know Roisin, and you will have met her in other videos that I've done over the past sort of 2.5 years now, I think, since we've met, which feels like yesterday. And do watch, if you haven't already watched that original video of the interview I did with Roisin, because then we talk about how we met. And I think that is a fascinating story in and of itself. So, Roisin, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this new discussion. And I'm so really excited to talk about 2026 and all these energy shifts that we're in.
Lovely, Susan. Happy New Year to everybody, soul sister. And yes, it's lovely when we just talk together, isn't it? And just see what comes up, because you work with the science, and I'm working with the spirit, and it's a lovely connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's lovely. It really is, because as you merge together, so much information can come just by talking.
It's true.
Yeah,
I'm much more creative when I'm having a conversation. And then if
yeah.
I do something on my own, I feel like it's a little bit flat, or I feel
It
like,
is, isn't
oh, I
it?
missed that, I forgot that, I should have said this. But in a conversation, things come out in really creative
It
ways.
does. Yeah, it's like the energy starts to weave it as you talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's beautiful about humanity. We do need each other, and we need to know we need each other in that way. And it's very important, that connection with each other, isn't
Yeah,
it?
for sure. Yeah, especially now, right? Because things are changing rapidly, and I think we can really easily lose our grounding and connection with each other. So it's good to have a little a human check-in every now and then, even if it happens to be over the airwaves. So,
Yeah, and when you just listen to someone or you talk to someone, and you don't know who's listening or who's talking, but it can help you just by somebody saying a word, or somebody saying something else, and you think, oh, I'm feeling like that, or that's what was happening to me. And it makes people not feel so alone or isolated, because, the ego tries to isolate us to say, oh, it's just you has the issue, everybody else is grand.
so
And then it's
true.
lovely that you get like a liberation, and oh God, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seriously, I mentioned kind of off the cuff yesterday. I did a video about the Leo full moon, and I just happened to mention that in Vedic astrology, I'm in the end of a really difficult phase of 7 years. That's called the Ketu Mahadasha, and so
Right.
Ketu is the south node, where it's really about shedding and letting go and releasing, and it's been a ride over 7 years, as you know. But then also, what K2 represents is deep spiritual and karmic things. And I met you in K2 Mahadashas, for example. There's some connection there that goes beyond this lifetime. And this is also true of that. So you're shedding in one way, and
Yeah.
you're getting things in. But what really struck me was then in the comments with people who had already gone through that, or who understood what it meant. And I thought, wow, I wish I'd known about you people before.
Yeah, exactly. Why did you not tell me?
We could have started like a self-help group for people going through Ketu Mahadasha, because it's
Hmm.
quite a ride. It's really, you have to surrender pretty much everything, and I'd already pretty much done that in the Mercury Mahadasha before. So yeah, anyway, just to say, it's that community that makes you feel like, oh, right, okay, everything's okay. There's somebody that gets me. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And I
And
think that's what's great about, the internet. That's one of the very good positive things. There's such a platform for people to realize, oh, this person's talking my talk, or it's getting me, and you can find that solution. And as long as we're careful of who we're listening to, that we're not, this clickbait that just takes you anywhere with the
yeah.
headlines, and really find quite authentic people that are just being normal and saying, listen, this is how it is. I think
Yeah.
that's lovely, isn't it?
For sure. And also, like we were talking about before we hit the record button there, just saying, it's the way you feel about things that is so important, because there's so much that we can think about, and then the clickbait takes us in these crazy directions of feeling anxious and really scared and so on. And there's already a message inside, isn't there, about whether this is a good or a bad thing that I should be paying attention to, or
That's
is
right.
this the direction I should keep going or not? And we spoke about the heavy molasses feeling, and I
Mm,
think that can be, a really important thing for people to keep in mind as they go forward. Is how do I feel when I'm sitting here watching or listening to somebody, and that's all you need to know, really, whether you keep going or not. So.
it is. It's we all have our wounds and our tapestry, and all these things are meant to trigger us. But we need to have the awareness of not to give it the energy and sit with the trigger and say, right, no, I can break through this. I've been here before and can do it. But these energies and headlines and things really try to trigger. You're still the same old pattern, and we have to really pull in and say, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
And those patterns, they can be ancestral too, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can be
Yeah,
things that
yeah,
you didn't have any inkling of, but that's there, kind of
yeah.
latent in your soul. It's just there.
That's right.
So, which brings me to a couple of things that we wanted to look at. One of them, well, there's many. You can go in any direction that you feel like you want to go, but I was thinking about St. Bridget here,
Woo!
and Imbolc coming up on the 1st of February at that full moon in Leo, and that has so many connections to what has been and what will be in non-material form, and what it all means to be in a phase of transformation. Do you want to say anything about that, or what
You
comes
know,
to
when
you?
when I think about St. Bridget, because Trinity House where I am, the cottage I'm in, I called it St. Bridget, and I have a St. Bridget's well. So it's if we think about Bridget, really represents that fire and that light, and that sacred fire. And we think about the fire horse coming in. It's really about something really is burning up here in us, and the change and how we are being burnt from within, like that purification. And we have a great opportunity to enter that new light that's waiting within us. It's not waiting outside of us. And the Bridget isn't really a person. It's really, anything is a symbol that we're all the Bridgets. We're all these sacred fires, and these beings come in to carry it, to remind us and ignite that again. So I think anyway, humanity is very intelligent now. We're more intelligent than we ever have been, with so much to, maybe too intelligent. This is why it takes us longer sometimes.
Yeah.
My problem is I procrastinate too much, and spirit is shouting at me saying, "You know this. Why do you procrastinate?" I says, because I'm human, and I don't know if this is my shadow or if this is my light. It's amazing. But when we can really, really fall into our own authority and open that light more and call in these energies that want to work through us, that's really that Bridget energy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's really powerful. And we always would hold a day here in Trinity for St. Bridget's Day. But it all depends how we use the energy and how we allow our trust and our belief to go into it, isn't
Yeah.
it really?
Yeah.
Sometimes people say to me, I really don't know this stuff. I said, don't worry about it. I said, just feel it. I says, somebody said to me, do you know this? I says, no, I don't know that at all. I'm just going to feel it. And my feeling is my authority, because, I'm dyslexic. I don't retain information. I can't read it and tell you it because I'm not going to remember. So I have to own my own authority of just knowing. And that's that beautiful cosmic light that these beings bring to us in these anniversaries.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me that I forgot to tell the viewers, some of them know already, but I'm so familiar with you, I forgot to tell them that you are a seer, that you're a mystic. And so you're speaking from a place of vast lifetime of experience, and that knowing is not intellectual and sometimes almost downright goes against logic, doesn't it? Like the things that you've been told by spirit, this is important now, go there, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
And
it's
it's what it has to be done, right? So that's
yeah. So
absolutely.
imagine when, if any of the viewers are watching and they know that they know, but the mind has been trained to not listen to that, or you're stupid or you're mad if you listen to it. And then especially when you try to birth that through a family unit that decides this is the way it is, or in a relationship, this is very difficult. The amount of times people say to me, oh, that wee girl's not well, she's not wise, and now I have these people as my customers. It's amazing. So you have to just try to stay true, and just know that you're in there wanting to come up. You know.
Yeah, and that's actually there's a feeling that goes with knowing, doesn't isn't there? There's a different feeling when something is inherent in you and true,
Mm-hmm.
compared to an intellectual idea. It's different, isn't it?
It's
And
totally
I
different,
think
Susan.
that may be the thing that people just need to trust and practice a little bit. Just keep going in the direction of that feeling and that sense of, the premonition of who's calling, or the things that they might write off because, oh, it's a coincidence or something like that. Then it puts it right back in the mind instead of in the feeling of what is true. And this is, I
Yeah.
think, a moment in time where we really need to get clear what is true, because we're like a barometer, aren't we? We can gauge those things. It's built in.
Yeah, that's right. And if you think about, we're on the journey of the fool, Spirit says. They've been screaming to me since the December. 2026 is the journey of the fool, and allowing that Sophia consciousness to, come really back in, that intuition, that mystical, that believing, that trusting without having to know, or without needing confirmation from the outside. And that's this whole journey of the fool starting to come in again for us.
Yeah, maybe we should just explain to the viewers who aren't so familiar with tarot what the fool represents, because it can be a little bit off-putting if people think
Yeah,
of it as the idiot. It's not an
yeah,
idiot.
definitely not the idiot.
No.
Who really is the fool, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because you
Uh,
used to read cards for years, didn't you? Or at least
yeah,
you sort of you pretended to read cards while you actually were reading psychically. But anyway,
exactly. But
so tell us about the fool.
you've got the measure of me, Susan. Well, if like the Buddha that laughs and says, like, this is an illusion. The fool is really saying, now you know.
Hmm.
So like the fool is the journey of, and the fool, you go through the whole of the Tara, but the fool is in every aspect of it. Because the fool is in every aspect of our life, waiting for us to be liberated back into our consciousness. And then we look back and we think, oh, we were foolish, we trusted that, we were foolish, we didn't believe that. And it's not, it's something that we need to own. And the fool is the zero. And when you see that, it's everything outside your mind is really that consciousness. And that zero, as I see, as a fool comes in, it's nobody's idiot. It is the liberator of outside the systems before we come into the system. We
Yeah.
are that beautiful fool. And you see the archetype of the fool. It has a very small bag. It has a little dog beside them, and the dog to me really is the God consciousness, that intuition, that playfulness. And just take your bag, because everything is within you. You don't need baggage. You know it. And we're always told that we need to collect. Like, we go into the learning systems, nothing about school, but we go into the learning system and said, this is what you need to learn. This is what you need to know to be who you are. This is what you need to believe. So God help us. This is how we've come in, and we're trying to, get all that away. Like, we were talking about, the Sophia and the Christ. It's like, Christ has been taken and been repackaged to control the masses. Whether you believe it right or wrong, it's a packaging, it's a selling technique. And, we don't know who the real Christ was. It came to say, you are the vision, you are the light. And Sophia's essence from the same source came in to say, and you are the wisdom that carries it. And we're really looking and thinking, we need to repackage all this for ourselves, and how does it fit in our psyche, how does it support us, in that
Yeah.
way. So that's that full journey, of finding your own feet, finding your new grounding in you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I just had the vision of, you remember way back before smartphones, before GPS, before smartphones and all of that. And we used to travel, and we kind of had our vision, like, this is where I want to go, this is a little bit what I'm thinking I'll do there. But on the way, we just didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know where we would have dinner. We didn't
that's right.
know where we might
Just
sleep. We would just have to figure it out step by step. And there was something very magical about that, because it really aligned with that journey, that kind of inner journey of every moment is a new discovery. We didn't already have it laid out. We didn't have a sense of what it should look like that can build up a sense of disappointment in what is actually going to happen. Or we might even block the things from happening because we're so committed to one vision instead of saying, actually, I'll turn left here and see what happens. So that for me, that really just jumped out, that vision of the fool as I don't know what I don't know, and I still put that foot forward. He's putting his foot forward into empty space, isn't he? He's kind of like, who knows what's
Really just
coming?
stepping out is, and that really, that's what it is. And we have to understand and not get angry. People say to me, oh, why were we taught all that, why is it so hard? I said, no, no, don't feed into that, because you don't want to put your awakening into that and say,
Yeah,
oh, if it had been this way. So no, I'm here now. This is the fool saying, I'm here now, and
yeah.
I can move forward, instead of I'm here now and I'm still angry and bringing it forward. No, just say thank my being for being awakened from, in that
Yeah.
way, and use it well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of helping people remember that awakening isn't like some magical, mystical experience. Sometimes that
No.
comes with experiences like that, but it's really very, very subtle, isn't it? It's just knowing, it's just waking up to this moment and saying, oh, I get it.
Uh-huh. I
And
get it.
that is going to be super like dull in many cases. It's just like
Mhm.
washing the dishes and knowing in the old Zen koan, which is before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yes,
After
yeah.
enlightenment, chop
Chop
wood,
with you.
carry water. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, one of the obstacles to actually being here in this awakened state is people expect it to be like some kind of, I don't know, acid trip or something. Like it has to be this really extraordinary
Yeah.
event. And that also may be something we've bought into because we're hearing a lot of extraordinary stories on YouTube or whatever. But it's actually a very, very grounding thing when you wake up.
It's
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 super, super connecting.
super connecting. It's very subtle, and you know, because we are bombarded, as we know, by form and society. For any energy to get in, sometimes we have to get a shock to get it in because we're so distracted. In that way, and it's all very simple. It's
Hmm.
very, very, very simple, and we can miss it. And then we can get an answer, and it's so simple we don't take it.
Yeah, because we
Yeah,
want something more exciting.
yeah, yeah, because that's the
Yeah.
way, it, I was watching a program the other day, about, the reality program where, these singers, get seen or whatever. And the singer's beautiful voice, but there's so much techno behind her.
Mm.
Flash, and I thought, what is all this bombarding flash? And we don't need it. We're listening to the singer.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I thought, why we've been so hypnotized that we think we need all this, and even the younger children come up, think boom, 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 boom. We need all that before we can hear the singer.
yeah.
It's,
That's sad,
is
isn't
it?
it? Yeah, because there's
Mm,
something gorgeous about sitting around. Like that's also a very old Irish tradition, just sitting
oh,
around and just with a guitar or whatever,
that's
or a
right.
fiddle, a flute, whatever, and just singing, and that's it. And that's how people really kind of entertained themselves for so long, and everybody just got to be themselves doing their little
Mm,
part. And it wasn't flashy, but it was incredibly nourishing.
that's right.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
more of that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like sometimes I'm doing things in Trinity. I get the people to cook with me. I say, let's make some scones. And I remember a man came in one day and said, oh my God, them scones are lovely. Did you make them for scratch? I says, not at all. I bought them in a packet. And I said, but you know what I did? I says, I had to put it in the bowl, I had to mix it, and then I had to put my energy into it. I says, so, and he started to, I laugh, and I says, it's just about, doing things like that, and just being real with it, and doing it with other people. And you sit. I remember I used to sit beside in the fire in the old cottage in my granny's house with the black pot. And they used to do the toast with with the fork, and we used to just sit and say the stories, and then go out to the flats and hear the music playing on the street. And that's still very much in Ireland too. They
Yeah.
still bring that on, and it just brings you back to the heart. That Leo energy you're talking about, heart. Just the heart beats, the heart wins. It really does win.
And the
You
heart
know.
is also where we connect, isn't it? Like we don't even need a language. We can go anywhere. It doesn't matter whether you speak the language. The heart is that connection and it's that radiance and the resonance that you feel with somebody. If the heart is open and vibrant, you feel it. And if the heart is shut down and heavy, you feel that. And
You feel that, yeah.
yeah, and you can feel it through words. That's why you can feel it through what anybody is doing or saying. You can feel that. Like you're talking about putting your energy into your food when you make your food. You
Yeah.
taste it as well. You know, you can always taste a meal that's made with love.
Oh, I do.
It's a totally different experience than something that's kind of slapped together by somebody on, you know, on the whatever, like a small income or in a some kind of fast food place or whatever. You know, there's a totally different energy that you're eating actually. And that
Yes.
comes from the heart.
And that's interesting, Susan. I'll tell you a very quick story. I don't know if I shared it with you personally, but last year, a beautiful person took me to Tenerife for a week after my mother's death, which is the first the February in St. Bridget's Day last year, and they took me to a place in one of the Canary Islands, which was a retreat that I never was at, and they had booked the chef to cook the food, and it was all vegetarian and vegan and things like that. But I also eat meat. But you know, when the chef was doing the food and he set it on the table, I didn't need to eat it because he talked to the food because the kitchen was beside the table and he was holding the food, talking to the food, loving the food, and I could hear the food talking back, but he couldn't hear the food talking back even though he was talking to it. And he put the meals in front of me, and I said to him, I hope you're not offended. I don't need to eat this. I couldn't eat the whole week. I was filled because he had filled the food with love. And the person that was with me was saying, this is extraordinary. And every time he sat down and put the food down, I cried, not with sadness, with the connection he had. And then he sat down and he started to cry. And he says, oh my God. I says, we need to protect you. I says, because they won't see you. They'll not
Mm.
know what you. He says, no one has seen or connected with my food that way. And I says, I'm telling you, this is what you're doing. And then one day he couldn't come because he had a newborn baby and he had to go with the child. And he said, I'll put the food in the fridge in the little apartment we were in. So it was grand. I got up the next morning. When I opened the fridge, the food was depressed.
Oh,
And I said to Jack, I says, you won't be able to eat this today. I says, his food is depressed. And he collected the plates at 5 o'clock. And I said to him, he couldn't even eat the food either. I says, do never leave your food like that. I said, it was a tremendous. And that was only last year.
gosh,
So
wow.
that's the difference when someone is loving, completely loving and
Yeah,
talking to the food. We would be filled up just by it sitting in front of us. This is
right.
why when we eat food, we get empty very quickly because the food is dead
Right. The
and
food
it's
is dead
crying.
and kind of
Mhm.
so are we if we're eating it in
Yeah.
that unconscious way,
And
right?
we're not getting the nourishment. The nourishment actually is in the food itself. The nourishment is that beautiful intent. And that was the most powerful thing that has ever happened to me in my life.
Amazing. Gosh. I
It
used
was,
to study naturopathy back in the days when I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing with myself. I was still working at the commission, but I was taking all these courses, and one of them was about nutrition and naturopathic medicine. And this teacher, I'll never forget, he was this fantastic French guy, and he said, it doesn't matter if you're eating organic vegetables all day, all day long. He said, if you're angry or if you're stressed or whatever, you're not going to get any of the goodness of it, but you can eat a chocolate candy bar. And if you eat it with love and joy and affection and just the sense of abundance that you feel, he said, that will bring you more good than if you sit surly and grumpy in front of your salad and try and get any benefit out of that. And that stuck with me. That was one of the early lessons that I had around the energy that's in food. It was
it's
a
it's
good
a, it's
one.
a it's amazing. We have so many amazing people in the world that are so gifted and are
Yeah.
not seen and not protected. And it's so important because that's that Sophia consciousness and that has been pushed away, laughed at, or boo booed, or whatever. And that is it. It is going to break through. It really is going to break. I know I felt it so strongly, and that we need to honor and nurture ourselves for the gifts that we have
Yeah.
and bring them to the table and help humanity. Each
And
of us
it
has it.
Can you say more about what you mean by protect them? Because I think that might be a really good thing to clarify. What do you feel when
Well,
you
it's,
think,
when I say protect them, when I was there last year with that beautiful soul that no one told him what the food
yeah,
was saying back, even though he was still doing it. And I said, this is what your food's doing, and this is what you have. And I said, we need to protect you. I said, because you don't know who you are. I says, we need people to see you. And I says, we
wow,
need to write the book. I said, and it's a wee bit like, maybe someone that's listening to this is so gifted and doesn't even isn't aware that that gift is so precious. We need to see each other more, and when we see that and people say, I see you, you have it, and help them or nurture it. That's what I mean by the protections. Give them that,
yeah, yeah.
confirmation.
Yeah, like going into a little shop and seeing
Yeah.
somebody being excellent and
Yes.
acknowledging that. Yeah, because I think this is something I try and get across to people. Often people have this notion of what is my purpose, what is my life
Yes.
all about, and so on. And it's a valid question, but it can be again an obstacle because people have this idea that it has to be extraordinary, like you have to
Yeah.
be special and famous or whatever. And I remind people all the time that this whole world that we're relating to now has been built little piece by totally humble and unknown people, but who
Mhm.
are doing things in the best way they know how. And that would be, I think, a good takeaway for people in these times where there's always this feeling of what's coming around the corner. What are we going, towards, and how is this going to affect me? And it's just that sincerity, like this fellow who was praying to the food and honoring his food and loving what he's doing. And he's bringing more into this moment than people who earn, billions or whatever,
That's
because
right.
he's cultivating what you could describe as life. He's cultivating something vibrant and full of love. And I think we overlook that because it's not tangible. We have
Yeah.
to we like you said, we have to recognize people. So thanks for clarifying, and that might be a good thing for people to keep in mind, that sense of honoring people who seem to be doing things that are so simple and who are anonymous. I have my personal way, for example, is always to say hello to the street sweepers or the people who are there as like city workers, in whatever town I'm in. I just say hello. I don't
Yeah.
do any special thing, but there's to just not have them be anonymous. The same
Yeah.
thing with homeless people, that you just acknowledge them, you look at them, you maybe give them something, and that they're not anonymous because we don't know who they really are. We don't know it reminds me of Neil Donald Walsh, that he did a book called Conversations with God like 30
Mhm.
years ago. And he was homeless. He was sleeping in his car for a couple of years. He was not doing well for a while. And, somebody like that who has an extraordinary message to convey
Mhm.
can be overlooked because of the external circumstances that they're in. They seem poor or there's something lacking because they don't have all the bells and whistles like you were saying about the stage.
Yeah, yeah, and like life has, we've all taught that it has to be on a stage to be accepted, or to be real. But I find everybody I meet, anybody that I meet on whatever area, I always talk to them or say, well, I see you, even though they might think, this woman, what do you mean you see me? You've never met me. I am planting it into their soul, because if I see them, then their soul has seen me, even though they may not consciously realize it. And I says, oh, it may come to you in a couple of months why I said what I said. I says, just take it, just take it. I says, because you need it for when you need it. I seen something the other day on, one of these like feeds that come up.
Mm.
It was a man handing people cards, little pieces of paper wherever he walked. And he said, you were picked to be here, or you could forgive yourself today. And I
Oh,
thought, what, isn't that just beautiful? He was just handing it randomly to
yeah.
people, and it touched people whatever way it was their own personal. And I thought, now, isn't that just, that's just beautiful? Somebody walking along the street, you don't know what's happening to them or how they're being affected, and a smile or a touch, or don't think that you're not important when, as I call, source puts you in front of someone. You're important to connect with that soul. and you could save a life, you could save, bring them into a better space. You know, we are so brilliant just as how we are. You know, I look at my phone and I say to people, this is not the highest quality software. We are the most intelligent
Yes. Yeah,
software
for
in the
sure. Yeah.
whole of the beingness, and we need to know that, and we need to learn it and use it in the best way that we can in the most beautiful ways.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
yeah,
like,
because we
you know,
rely too much on the external software, don't we? And then
yeah.
we forget the incredible power that we have.
But then doesn't that go back to, you know, the salvation is outside, and you have to find it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
how
yeah,
things have been repackaged, and not saying that the kingdom was within you, like the message was from the, as I call the mystical Jesus. The message was you are the kingdom, and then that was repackaged and said this is the king. You know, this is just
yeah,
how it is. And you know, we are so amazing, and it's not that we don't know, we've just forgot, and the layers are on top of us.
yeah. So
And
true.
you
Yeah,
know, if you can walk by someone and just touch that layer, and like I really do, I just go boom. You know, I just hit them with something. I say, let's wake somebody up today. That's my personality, you know. But I'm being stripped back, and I don't know if you've noticed. You know, you were talking about the 7 years. You're being stripped back because we are becoming more ethereal, more divine, more avatar like, and we have to leave those old structures. Maybe where we even made our business through on ourselves, and let the next new part of us come in. You
yeah. And
know?
that's the fool again, isn't it? And that's that
Yeah.
mystery of like what's coming around the bend. And I have to always remind myself, and I say this to others too, but it's more for me that I say it, is that, there was always a time before something that you know now happened, you didn't know it. And like it could have been meeting your lover, or
Mm-hmm.
having your child or whatever. I remember the feeling of being pregnant and not having met my child. Such an unusual feeling because you're part of this body and they're part of you, and yet you don't know them until you see their little eyes. And there's something that is so exciting about that, and yet at the same time it feels like there's always this trepidation, like, will it be okay, is it going to work out, is
Yeah.
it going to be all right? So I kind of feel like we're very much on the precipice of that right now.
We are. I've seen so many changes with people. When you know yourself, once you're changing, then everything changes around you. The changes within. But I've seen so many changes with my family, and with my clients, and I just think, wow, everybody's excelling now. I used to think I'm on my own doing this. I thought, oh, I'm not on my own anymore. Everybody's coming up together now. It's like a wave that people are really owning it, and becoming it, and trusting it. That
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm not needed anymore. You know, and then
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
oh,
Well, you're needed as much as anybody. That's the thing. And that's
yeah,
because before it feels like heavy lifting, doesn't it? When you feel isolated, when you feel like
yeah,
you're the one
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
looks to, there's always this
yeah, and
feeling
you
of,
don't want that.
yeah, no, it's so much nicer to feel like you've got a team,
Yeah, and
a kind
everybody's
of a,
bringing their. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And because like we said at the very beginning, we need some kind of social support, even if it's just a one-on-one chat or something, but we need to be there for each other while we're helping other people so
Yeah,
that we can share it bigger and better and wider, because it's otherwise you just end up feeling like you're drained, or you feel like I mean, whenever I get confused, or if I get like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right way to do it? I need to sit down with somebody who's doing more or less the same thing or similar things,
yeah,
so that I can just have an idea, planted, a seed planted from that conversation that just keeps me in the right
yeah.
direction, keeps me going. Because it's not an easy thing to feel like you're isolated in a world that doesn't seem to always respond to energy work or to working with people on a more soul or spiritual level. Because you're lucky if you find a good bunch of people nearby. So this is the
That's
blessing
right, because the
again.
tribes are split out, all
Yeah,
over,
we're
the consciousness, and that's right. You have to sometimes make your own wee world, and then allow people to come into it, and you go into their world.
yeah,
I see so many changes in myself of who I was in the last really, 7 years, and who I'm becoming. When I look back, I think, oh my God, I really am not the Roisin I used to be. And
yeah,
sometimes I feel I can't if I got met someone from the past, they would be expecting me to be the Roisin that they knew, and I'm thinking, oh, she's away. I don't even know who she was,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are really going through that, and maybe they're afraid of leaving situations and leaving parts of themselves. But the fool is saying, don't leave it
Yeah.
and let the new, because it's not that you're going to lose. You're transforming, and something else is going to come up out of it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's always anyway that on the level of personality, isn't it? That we're afraid. We're afraid of losing something that the ego is attached to. It's not
yeah,
truly who we are. So there's never anything lost.
that's right.
If we go forward in the way that we truly are, it's only the idea, the ego, personality, this maybe the business card or the outfits or whatever that we're
Yeah, yeah.
losing something. It's not, and it's not even possible to actually lose it. It's just not, it's not necessary
It's
anymore.
not. That's right. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
So, but I really just think people are so in tune now.
Yeah, and that's also very uplifting right now because you get so many people who are focusing on something different and better. You really
Mm-hmm.
hope that that can produce something for everyone's benefit, that people can keep looking in that way. So,
And do
um,
you find that you think, I find that people are, really taking their authority to speak now, whether they're good, bad, or angry, it doesn't matter. They're getting their authority now, like before. They're not being silenced as much, even in their
mm.
homes and their relationships and their jobs. People may see that as a negative. I don't. I see that as a real starting to shift and authority and in the self and change, isn't it?
Yeah, so true. And I mean, it's quite ironic, isn't it? Because that was the origin of YouTube, wasn't it? 21 years ago, whenever they started. I think it was 2005. When
Wow.
YouTube came up, it was like, it was so that you could go on video and somebody would hear your little music or your ideas or your information or whatever. Um, and it's kind of paradoxical because now that same platform is becoming quite a strong platform for censorship. So now we're finding people who are trying to speak openly, trying to say something, and they have to kind of dance around language or they don't say it or they're having to find another way. So we're almost being pushed off the this platform back into the real world so that we can actually sit with each other and say what we
Say
want to
it.
say and be real with each other. Once again, I find it really ironic in just this, whatever it is, 20 years, 21 years.
21
So,
years.
can
Isn't
you
that
imagine? Yeah, that's a
isn't that
long time.
amazing?
Yeah, yeah.
And like the 21 energy is the energy of rebirth, in how I work with numbers,
Okay.
and you bring it together, then you get the number three, which is that Trinity, and that's that Sophia, that mystic within yourself.
All right. And
Right?
three,
So,
three in Vedic numerology is Jupiter.
oh
The
wow.
reference to, so yeah, so that's Jupiter, that's that wisdom. That's
And
very
there's the
interesting.
Sophia. There you are.
Yeah,
Isn't it lovely when you talk?
yeah.
They play with us. I love it. They play
Yeah.
in a lovely way.
Well, absolutely. I wanted to ask you also if you had any thoughts about the eclipse or anything that's coming up astrologically in the next couple of weeks, or have you been thinking about it at all? Have you?
Well, I, every time when I hear the word eclipse, I feel a crack in my chest,
Wow.
like like an egg, and
Yes. Yeah.
anything could happen, and I'm thinking, what's this? I don't see a crack in a negative way. If you can read
Yeah,
into it, I
when you
just see
said
like
that, I
something.
was thinking crack in the body, and then the Christ light or the light
Yeah,
of
something
consciousness
just like,
comes through. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
just like,
actually, yeah.
yeah, in that way, really, I feel so many things going on all at the one time, to process it. Then I have to sit and think, oh, what was that? And then I
Yeah.
hear you saying something and think, oh, that's what that was.
Right,
It's
exactly.
it's really
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. And actually, I mean, before I really got fully motivated in studying astrology, I these kinds of things were happening to me all the time. And in a way, I was actually quite relieved not to know too much about them because I
Mhm.
didn't block anything either. But
Yeah,
now looking back and seeing all the big things that have happened, I think, oh, that's why that happened. And now I understand it and I see the energy behind it and then the cycles are repeating or whatever. And so it's an interesting thing. We don't need astrology in any way. We're also living it regardless of whether we know what's coming around the bend.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fun to know. As long as I think it's really important for people not to get too hung up on it, not especially not like daily forecasts and things that
Yes.
can actually be, kind of preventing you from feeling your way into your life, feeling your way forward.
Yeah. I think it's when, when we get vulnerable and if we're in a vulnerable state and we've been made feel unsure about who we are by society, then we can then use the tool too much.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
we keep thinking we need this bag, and then we lose our own authority to trust in it, the guidance of it, and
exactly.
in
Yeah,
our
or like drawing the tarot card and then I
yes,
know
I
some
know.
people are drawing tarot cards all the time, and then if they get one that they don't like, they get really
Yeah,
nervous about it, and then
yes.
they draw more cards, and then it just ends up confusing.
Mm-hmm.
It's far better just kind of switch it off, like you do when your laptop goes, when there's something wrong, you
Yeah,
switch it off, just switch it off, and then
yeah.
switch it back on again at another moment, so that you can take a moment to recalibrate from your intuition, from what's coming through you.
And what do you think,
So,
Susan, when you talk about the eclipse from your point of view and what's going, especially on the 17th of February, with
yeah.
that, what it was like
Ooh, it's a big one
a
because
tsunami of
yeah,
energy.
it's a big one. We're already kind of in the energy and sort of experiencing that now for the last couple of weeks because of the transition of the planets into Aquarius, and and they're already showing us the energy of the eclipse in a way,
Yeah,
especially because the eclipse is squaring Uranus, and that's a very so eclipses are unusual, shocking, unpredictable events. We can maybe look at the energy around it and say, well, it'll probably be a little bit related to this, but we still don't know how it's all going to pan out. And then Uranus does the same. It's exactly the same energy as say, the North Node. And where this is kind of a double dose of unpredictability. So it's almost pointless to say, yeah, this is
yeah,
probably what's going to happen. But it is something to look forward to in the way that you described, like cracking open
yeah.
and
I just
having
see
this
it.
feeling like, okay, this pressure has been building in this area of life that feels like it's done. I'm moving into something. I'm so finished with whatever the thing is for
Yeah,
the individual. And that often, like you said, people only change when there's this big event, like whether it's an awakening or just a realization I need to leave my job or I need to
yeah, yeah,
leave my husband or wife or whatever. And that comes in a moment of actual clarity that can often be simultaneously quite painful. It can be something like that cracking open idea is it holds that, doesn't it? That's like doesn't feel comfortable
that's
to
right.
be cracked open, but at the same time, what comes through that is what is true, and that's that. The image I got immediately was that the light of the Christ consciousness or the
Yeah.
soul's consciousness or Shiva consciousness.
Yes,
And that's coming
opening up.
through something that is an eternal transformation. So again, whatever is happening now is also going to be changing down the line. It's not going to be the last word in things. It's not the way your life is going to be. It's yet another cycle that's transforming.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, like any type of energy that's moving. It's an opportunity to look at something that keeps repeating and let it focus there to shift it and say, right, I'm done repeating this lesson. I'm done
Yeah.
repeating this part of myself. I'm done with this part of me.
Yes, yeah, and
Mhm.
recognize that's a good thing to point to is that who's the me that is repeating this lesson because
Mhm.
that can be helpful in terms of when we feel we're done with something because there is a part of you that knows this shouldn't be repeating and needs to go somewhere else, and often we're not paying attention to that part of ourselves, the intuition or the heart or whatever you want to call it, and the part that keeps repeating the pattern is part of the egoic identity
Yeah,
of the self that is not real. And so that pattern keeps behaving in a way that is going to get more painful until you change. It's like that old story, the one of the man walking down the street and falling into the hole. And each time he walks down the street, he falls into the same hole. And then he starts to walk around the hole instead of falling into the hole. And then eventually he starts to walk down a different street because he's
yeah.
not,
So,
he
and
doesn't
that's
want to
that.
get caught out.
And that's that journey of the fool through the journey of our life.
Yeah.
People say to me, why is it so hard? I said, forget about why is it so hard. Why do we keep needing to repeat it? That's what
Yeah.
I do. Why do I keep
Yeah.
needing to go back to get the punch, you know, or the
Yeah.
hurt? I said,
And
why?
also, what is it about us that makes it hard? Like that is a part of like the Asian traditions, whether it's Buddhism or yoga or the Tao or whatever, they're all talking about resistance and where do we resist? And often we don't see our resistance because we feel like it's a defense mechanism or it's a protection or it's a way of I don't know, handling a situation,
Yeah.
but it actually is the resistance that's producing the repetitive pattern. And so if we can find what is it in me that keeps resisting, and what is it I'm resisting, and what's the thought that makes me feel I have to? You know, is that my mother's voice in my head or a school teacher or me thinking I have to live to this standard and therefore I keep pushing against this locked door. You know, what is it? And find that answer because it'll be really, really blindingly obvious, no doubt. Like it'll not be a complicated answer. It'll be
No,
some,
no, no. It's yes, right. It's not complicated. You
yeah.
know, it brings me back to, and I think I said this to you before. I was in my little, church house that I created in Trinity, and I remember sitting one day and I said I'll just really look at the views here. I said to the Creator, I said, why is this karma still in my life? There was a situation that just wasn't leaving, and I thought, what is this message? And the voice came back and said, the karma's done. It's your choice. You're now in it. And you know what I said back? I said, why didn't you tell me? It said, you did. It said, you didn't ask.
Oof. Okay. All
So I
right
would say
now.
to the viewers, asked, is this karma done? And is it a
Yeah.
choice that I'm in? And the choice is I am not aware of it.
Yeah.
I shifted that immediately when I realized.
Amazing. And listen to the answer that you get. That's the thing. Because often people might think they're asking the questions, but they ignore the answers because they don't like what they are.
You don't like it,
So
then?
this is what you do so well is to really just you hear what comes through. You
I
hear
just
the
hear
answer and it's like, oh, got it. Okay, move on.
it.
And I think that's the other part of the ego, isn't it? It's that it's tricking us into thinking we don't know. But actually, we do know, and we just don't want to hear what the thing is. So,
It
yeah,
is. And that was a great learning for me because I would
great.
work with a lot of things or karmic situations, and they were kind of saying, "No, that was over 5 years ago." This,
Right? Oh, God.
so what did I learn about that? It was my choice that kept me in it.
Yeah,
It was all about me. I thought take this decision back and shift that. So I
yeah,
think that's lovely if people say that to themselves. Sometimes I sit at night and I say to the Sophia energy, I say, okay, am I in a karma or am I in a choice? I says, tell
yeah,
me in my dreams or tell me when I'm aware enough to hear it. So, I never stop asking anyway. I never stop. I'm talking all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
And I may not be hearing all the time, but I'm talking all the time to the essence.
yeah. That's a good practice, I think, to
Mhm.
have that connection, to just have that faith that, and you can give it the image that you like or color or whatever it is that you give to whatever you consider to be this higher or other
Yeah,
voice.
that's
It
right.
it doesn't matter, but you just find a way to regularly relate to that.
Yes.
And don't wait to hear like you're lucky you've got a really clear channel to guidance. I don't. I have to kind of feel and then I have to test my feeling. Is it right? Is it working? So I don't have that degree of direct spoken like answers.
Yeah.
But when something's right or wrong, I feel it directly. Like it'll be really,
Yes,
really
yes, you feel it
clear.
directly. But
So
I
I just,
really feel, Susan, sorry to interrupt you, you do have it. And I think
mm,
you're going more into you being this universal voice for spirit through the astrology in an open way to show people how it can be so open. I feel you are going to just allow more flow in that and let that
yeah,
because when we met, I knew that alignment. That's a part of your journey, and you
yeah,
remembering who you are, and then your customers growing with you into
yeah.
that new awakening, isn't it?
Yeah, that was magical meeting you. I mean, it really was. And it's like there's something where you look at something like that, because just for the short story, for people who don't know,
Yeah.
Roisin was told to find me and then
Yeah.
found me, and then was told that she had to bring me somehow over to Ireland. And then and I ended up there, and we just had the most extraordinary few days together. I still had no idea who you were. Like I hadn't even looked, it didn't even
Madness.
occur to me to look who you were. It was just one of those things where I was like, oh, here I am with
This was
this.
right. You
It was
listen.
great, yeah, because it
This was
felt so right, and yet the shifting are things that happened as a result of that encounter. It really puts your trust right back into the invisible realms where you just
doesn't
say,
it?
"Oh, right, okay, I'm not orchestrating any of this.
Yes.
I'll just go along with it then. Thanks." It's
But you were that. You were that. You were that. Spirit said to me, "You are. You really. You're their voice." That's what I was told. You're going to be their voice in some way, and you're writing the book, and you're moving, and it's like that river coming through you and touching people. It's beautiful. Because like sometimes when I watch your videos, you really put a lot of effort and a lot of information into people. I just couldn't do that. I just don't do that. I'm too lazy. No way. You know, and it's beautiful delivering that, and how that voice is opening, and the way I hear Benedictus, a blessing, and
oh,
know that
that's marvelous. Thank you for
and
saying that.
you were talking about but I'm actually not saying it. They're saying the spirit is saying that to
Thank
you.
you,
So
Spirit.
they said, "Come on, my child!" Like to everybody, "Come on, my child! I got you here. Don't listen to anybody. I've got you. Listen to listen to me. Sometimes when I do my work and we're doing events, and my husband would arrange things, and he said, "We're going here and going there," and then we're walking down the street, and spirit says, "No, there's someone." Energy needs help around in this community, and my husband said, "No, no, no, the meal for the 15 people is being cooked 600 meters from them." I says, "Because I just have to do a mercy mission here, and I take the whole group for 20 minutes the whole direction." And that's that alignment. Don't be afraid to trust that. Don't be afraid to push against it and go, and don't worry about people say, "Oh, you're not doing it." Forget about them. If you're getting something that really feels real,
Yeah,
really go for it. But I
yeah.
wanted to ask you a wee bit about the Leo and the heart, and what you feel is coming up, for that energy to go with that. That every time I hear the word heart, spirit shifts it and says earth.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually,
Yeah.
that's a great way of looking at it because the heart has this magnetic field, and it wouldn't exist without the Earth's magnetic field. That we're part of Gaia. We're part of this body of Earthlings. We cannot be Martians. We are Earthlings. There's no other way. And the spirit that animates us is just animating this earthly body that has been formed by the earth itself. And then the most precious part of us is the heart.
Mm.
If you think, like my mom was a nurse, and I had this conversation with her one day, and I don't know who it's some famous person had died, and it was the cause of death was heart attack. And I said that to her, and she said, "Everyone dies of a heart." Oh no, it was heart failure. And she said, "Everyone dies of heart failure. That's literally how you die." And it struck me so like lightning. It was just like, oh yeah.
Oh.
So what we are when we're alive is a beating heart. And the rest, your brain can die, your brain can go off, and we
Mm-hmm.
know that people have had NDEs and come back, and the heart that is beating is the part of life that is keeping us in this lively sort of living experience of life, and the consciousness that we're inhabiting is how we can experience all of that life. But the heart is the connection, and that we wouldn't have that without the earth.
Yeah.
And that's Leo. That's Leo. So
Mm-hmm.
Leo is all about that relational dynamic that is radiant like the sun. It's represented in astrology by the sun, which is the one planet that we can count. Well, it's not a planet, the luminary that we can count on. It's always there. And the moment the sun is gone, we're gone. Nothing lives without even a split second without the sun. And that consistency, that integrity, that reliability, that is the
Yeah.
courage of the lion. And that courage is the heart. It comes from cœur. It comes from the French for heart. And and that's who we are. It's like this connection through the heart. It's somehow, I can't remember how many times more intense and important it is than the brain. The field of the brain is important and resonates for our intellectual and our sensory understanding of things. But the heart has a much, much bigger magnetic resonance. And the coherence between the two is the ideal, really, to put the mind and the heart together. And the only way we can do that is to let the mind drop into the heart. And that notion of dropping also comes with that feeling of being grounded, because
Yes.
if we're too much in the mind, in the realms of the opposite of Leo is Aquarius, which is the angelic realms, it's like the astral realms or the cosmos, and
Mm.
it's spacey and it's fascinating and it's
Yeah.
all beautiful and everything, but it also is very ungrounded energy. It's air element. And then when we need to ground, even though Leo is a fire element, we can't have any kind of fire without some kind of connection to something. It's not just going to be like a free form
Yeah.
ball. It has to be grounded. It has to be connecting to something. And the fire is started by something that is of the earth as well. So there's an interplay there for sure with where we feel connection to the ground, to the earthly embodied feeling of who we are, and
Yes.
the sense of our humanity, which is brought through the electromagnetic field of the heart, and the connection with the brain, which perfects that connection, and then allows us to be receptive to the angelic realms and the things that are not grounded. Otherwise it's delusional as well. It can take us too far away from what is real.
But isn't it, now I may be wrong, but isn't it the heart is the first organ in
To
that
be
bursts in the womb? It's the first.
100%, yeah, for sure. And that again, it's
So what's
known.
that telling us? Hello?
Yeah. And that is again, when you look at that, there's actually the brain and the brain stem and the spine and the heart. They're almost as one, and then they start to expand, and they
Mm-hmm.
sort of expand
Go in that
as
direction.
if they're separate things,
Mm-hmm.
but they're one and the same in that. And the skin, same thing. The skin actually is part of that same original function of the brain heart complex. And that's why the skin itself is so sensitive to how we feel, how we're
Touched.
experiencing life. It'll immediately show, are we shamed? Are we embarrassed? Are we
Yeah.
excited? Are we in love? It'll show, if we have social anxiety and a problem feeling safe in society, we'll get pimples, there'll be acne, or you get hives and you get eczema if you feel this sense of separation with another person, or you're with your family, with your mom especially. And the skin and the brain it's all happening in the same way. It can't be separated out. And again, in the same way with astrology, we have Leo, and we can digress and say, well, these are the different symbolisms of that, but we can't also separate that out from any other part
That's
of
right.
the chart, because it is this unity that explains who we are as humans or as individuals, and what we're resonating with in this lifetime. So it's we just have to use them to describe things in a compact way, and
Yeah.
using words, but it's always going to come back to the whole. It can never be separated from the whole. And we keep looking at your infinity behind your head there. You've got that infinity there, and that's really that. It just keeps looping back again and again and again and again. It's the same
The same
question,
thing,
same
isn't it?
answer.
It's just yeah, that's right. The
Yeah.
return journey, all the time. We just keep returning on this pathway. We're walking in so many dimensions at so many times, and like the physical is here, but we are in so many other dimensions, living the life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like everybody, you don't have to be a psychic to know that. You can be thinking of something, but you can be cooking. Do you understand? You're
Right.
you're gone straight away somewhere else,
Yeah.
and I catch myself in nearly 7 or 8 places I'm in, and I'm thinking, oh, pull me back. You know what I mean? So we're never. This is why they said be present. I'm thinking, be present in which dimension? There's so many dimensions. And which one is the best?
Yeah.
Let me choose.
Oh my God. It's like, have you ever had that? I'm sure you have, because most of us have, where you're driving. I don't drive
How,
anymore because I don't have a car. You just don't even know how you got where you ended up. You're
you can be
you're
shocked.
you're
I think,
there.
did I drive the road? Where
Yeah.
was I?
Yeah.
I'm madness. I could have killed
Yeah.
someone. You think,
Yeah. But
dear,
there's a
dear.
part of you that knows, and there's a part of you that's thinking or observing something else, and that's how complex and,
Mm-hmm.
and wonderful we really are as humans. So,
Yeah, that's the intelligence of the greatest software is a
yeah.
book. isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I don't know. Let's watch AI
yeah,
do that.
yeah,
Without killing somebody at a pedestrian crossing, which they've already done. Um, yeah, so I'm curious what you're doing going ahead. If you want to share with the viewers what you're up to this year, you
yeah.
might
Well,
have some
this
events
year
and
I've been
things.
changing like yourself. Everything,
Yeah.
letting go of a part of me that I wanted to hold on to. Because I know her so well. And is this new one going to be as good? That's what I'm saying. Does she know as much? So I do clearings, as you know, clearing energies and people and supporting them. But I'm mostly now going to go into more mentoring, or
Okay.
people that are really wanting to take it better, bigger, and really focus on these changes.
Yeah.
And then complete my heart system, the system of the Trinity heart system that I'm creating to create teachers and bring it out into the world. So I'm trying to just really focus on those two things, but now
Yeah.
it may branch off because life brings us. This is what I'm thinking, and it seems to be going that way.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever goes, with it,
Yeah.
in that sense. But I can see a real change of they've pulled me in away from everybody because I'm a people person, and they've pulled me in the last 18 months to really get rid of, not rid of, or transform that Roisin, the
Yeah.
one that
Yeah,
and
because
come
we
in.
kind of need to retreat to find who we are, right? It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is part of that. That's, I think, also what I did when I came to Denia. I needed to
mm-hmm.
separate out from all the
Exactly.
people who knew me before and who I knew, and
Mm-hmm.
I would, couldn't even walk the dog, kind of without
Yeah,
meeting people. And I just needed to have that sense of separate space for myself
yeah.
because I didn't know who I was becoming. It just felt like I needed
Something. Yeah,
space.
you need the space. Yeah,
Yeah, and so again, for people listening, it's if it's at all possible to find, without feeling anger or regret or feeling like you have to sever something, it's more like I'm just finding my space
it's finding
within
my
my
space.
space. Yeah, going towards that, going towards yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's the, yeah,
You're right, but at the start, about 18 months ago, I felt, oh my God, is something really bad happening to me? Because
mm,
I'm really a people person. And then I had to sit with the new part of me trying to come in. I thought, I'm not sure about you because
right.
maybe I'm losing myself. Am I going? And I really had to sit with and say, what is wrong with me? I can trust this. This is who I am.
Yeah,
But it was because it was, I'd been that part for so long, it was quite a challenge. Am I really losing myself? Am I losing who I used to be because the world is so heavy? But it wasn't. It was the part of me that had been heavy
yeah.
and formed
Still
into
plugged
that.
in to the old
Yeah,
thing.
that
Yeah,
needed to move. So if anybody's feeling that, I say no, no, no. Just go with it, and don't be afraid that you think you're isolating or I can't be in the world. It's not that you can't be in the world. You just need to be in your world till you reset and
yeah,
then enter in a new way. There's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
And I also want to say, because I know your history too of changing things, and I've got a similar pattern in my different
Mhm.
way, but in my life, where change is, it's not good to wait till things are really not working,
Yeah,
but change can happen when you energetically feel yourself no longer connecting. Things can still be working even in a dramatic way where you're
yes,
super busy and you have a lot of clients and money coming in
yes,
and all
yes.
these things seem to be working, but as soon as you're feeling that urge, or the heart here, there's the heart again, that
Yeah.
feeling of
Ding.
my heart is not in it, it is the most important message for you to allow the new thing to emerge. So, but to do that, you have to withdraw, right? You
Have
have
to
to create that
and
space
trust.
because we can't think our way through that change. It doesn't
Yeah,
usually work because we're bringing the old anxieties or our old self forward into the new thing unless we allow the change.
that's right, and
Um,
that's in any walk of life. It can be in your
yeah,
relationships, your work, your health. It's down the full through the whole thing, isn't it? You just have to
yeah.
decide which one is changing and what's it telling you to do. But I feel everybody's really getting aspects of this so strongly now.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's what's so creative about this moment, and hopefully people can not go into the fear around change. Like Louise
Yeah.
Hay, Louise Hay, who had those beautiful awakenings around her own trauma and how
Yeah.
her body was responding. And I had cards from her at one time. I had this whole card deck of Louise Hay and her sayings. And one of them, which I kept for years and years, was, um, don't worry, it's only change.
Yeah,
And
that's a
you're
only
safe, right?
change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's only change. And so there's no, like the fool, we don't have this sense of what is the next moment going to be. People want to guarantee that it's going to feel comfortable and it's going to feel good and it'll be the right partner, it'll the right job or whatever. And there is no guarantee, but the more we're listening from that space of the intuition and the heart and the energetic feeling of yes, this is a go, this is a yes, this is a go in that direction, or don't go there or don't do this,
Yeah.
that's equally valid. The more we will be in the right place without
Yeah.
knowing what the outcome is. We just are being told energetically, this is the place to go. That's where you put your attention.
Yeah.
And I think that is
Yes, it
more
is.
important, speaking as an astrologer, more important than knowing what the astrology says. Because often, I'd say probably even 9 times out of 10, when I'm meeting with people, what I'm doing is confirming to people what they already feel.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
I'm just saying to them in a way that makes them trust themselves or that makes them feel like, oh, that was right
What I
after
was
all,
thinking.
It-
Yes,
but it's
yes.
not like a novel thing for most people. There might be a little bit that's new, but most of it is already there and they don't feel that or they don't have that confidence in their intuition or themselves. They just need that little edge, that little push. So just practice that for everybody listening. Just practice that listening to the inside that says, this is right, this is true. And if it means having to call a friend or somebody else and saying,
Mm.
what do you think? That's fine.
Yeah,
But
don't be
still
afraid to
go in that
ask.
direction. And
Yeah,
even
don't
if
be
it's the
afraid.
most difficult thing, like really
Yeah.
leaving things that, like I said, can on the surface appear to be good and working,
Mm.
but it's still better to leave
Leave
because,
it, you know.
yeah, it's just not what it is anymore.
But I was, I didn't know that you did, like the forecasts, with the, I didn't know that. And I came across them when I was watching your videos there. And I downloaded the Capricorn for 2026 and I've
Yeah,
been
right.
listening. I've
Yeah, I got
been
to
listening to quite a
advertise
bit.
that, but I'll throw a little plug in there.
You
You can
should,
get
you should
you
put
can
that
get the
on.
2026 forecasts,
Yeah, I
and
was
they're
lying. I
half
thought that
price.
was, yeah, but
Yeah,
that's very good because, you know, it's a good guidance. Do you know what I mean? Anything that can guide, you at any time and people can look back at and say, oh, that, you know, guidance. I just love that sense of guidance. I'm not so happy when someone says, please tell me what to do. I said, no, no, no. I said, I can't tell you what to do. I can guide you for you to make the decision. And we have
yeah,
to be careful. We've been taught to give away our power, give away
yeah,
our fears and whatever, and then you can be manipulated. And then you get angry why you're manipulated, but you allowed it. You
yeah.
have to, if I get manipulated, it's because I allowed it. So,
Exactly. It was part of the dance that you were dancing, right?
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So, I was listening the other night and I thought, oh, I didn't know you'd done these, because I'm not a media person, but they're very good. And, I think you should tell or put the link because,
Yeah, I'll put the link below
whatever,
for
yeah,
sure.
because
Yeah, I do that, but there's something, I don't know, there's an energetic thing in me. People don't notice things. It's really quite funny because I can
really,
have things, that's a life pattern as well. It's just, I don't know, it's a part of my own innate shyness, my energetic shyness. I think that there are things that are there, but they don't get noticed. And so even if I
let's
say it
clear
or
that. Let's clear
yes,
that
let's
now.
clear that. Yes,
Yeah.
let's get rid
Like
of
when I
that.
was saying to you
Yeah.
that, maybe that's a part of it, Susan. Remember, I was saying to you about you were saying, I don't get the things the way you get them. And I said, no, no, Spirit says that you do, and this is the way you're going, and you're their voice. So maybe when that really opens
Yeah,
that
that'll
up,
be
then
it.
that'll
Yeah.
be, I think that's because,
Yeah,
I know, I know you have it.
yeah,
So,
and I also trust divine timing as well. I
mm,
really do trust that things I'm not anxious about or worried at all that,
yeah, you just know it
I
comes
don't
and
feel
it's,
lack around it at all.
yeah.
I feel like, oh, this is what I feel like I can handle. So this is perfect. And I'm not craving, more in terms of a like big platform or
Yeah.
something like that.
You
It's
know who's
more
appeared there? Sorry, just right beside you as you're talking. Um, the lovely monk. The monk that you know.
Thich
Oh.
Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, this guy. What's his
Yeah.
name? Yeah,
Thich Nhat Hanh.
he's
Thai.
just appeared here as you were saying that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah,
Whatever
he's very
that was.
much in my heart. You know, he died on the 22nd of January, so now 4 years ago now.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and that's I'm going with Plum Village, which is his organization, his meditation
Yeah, because he's
group.
pouring like a conscious water over your head. I think it's about what we talked about, you not being
Oh
seen.
wow.
And it's like aqua blue, like the Aquarius symbol. Only it's on.
Okay, with Thai. Yeah, yeah.
Fill me up.
Yeah, that has been my teacher for over 20 years. So yeah, he's a very important influence. Very, very
Oh, it's
special.
gonna something
Yeah.
good, something big's gonna happen then on your.
Yeah. That's the retreat I'm going to. So yeah,
Now
magic.
it's making sense. Okay, I've
Yeah,
got it. So
magic.
that's what it. That's it. That's
Yeah, I love
interesting.
these. I
That
love
came in.
conversations with you. It's so much fun. It's always these things coming up. I remember when we did a live once, a couple of years ago, we did a live with people asking questions. And
All
do you
right.
remember when you had the Orosoma bottles behind you and one of them exploded when somebody asked a question? And it's like stuff happens.
Yes,
Yeah,
stuff
so
happens.
so for people who want to connect with you, I will put your website link
Thank
down
you, Susan.
below and tell us, I know you've got some programs coming up online that people could join if they want to, if they,
Yeah, as I say, I'm doing. Been guided since just late last year to do the mentoring so that people can really start to work with
yeah,
them, and I have different mentoring ones that people can afford it and pay links just to help people
yeah,
because we're in such a material world. So I'm trying to do the mentoring, and then I have my online meditations that start
yeah,
of February. And
good.
then I'm working with the system. I'll just give you a shot just for your viewers to see for a second if this
Yeah,
doesn't go off of me.
yeah.
This is the heart system,
Oh,
and
they're
this is what
beautiful.
the
Yeah,
Trinity hearts, the human, the spirit, and the divine hearts coming together. And I want to create teachers in this where you sit in front of the essence and you remember who you are.
yeah,
So that's coming in since 2011. You imagine
magic. Yeah,
2011.
yeah, I mean, I
Give
know
me
it.
the book, give me the book, I said to them. And
Yeah,
they said, no,
yeah.
the book is within. I hate reading books, I can't read. So that's it. I have to open these pages and let the information come out about
Yeah,
the chart. So that's really, what I'm doing. I'm still doing my clearings for
yeah.
people, but
Yeah,
I'm
so for maybe for people who don't fully know what you mean when you say clearing, can you just give a kind of a nutshell idea of what that would be like for somebody? Or shall I
okay.
do that?
I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't
you would
know.
better. I don't
As
know.
somebody who's been cleared, um, um, yeah, because you've helped me a couple of times, more than a couple of times, where what it is when Roisin says clearing is that we've got energetic blocks that we're not really aware of, and she can see those, and that can be any number of different things. There's no point in even
Yeah,
kind of listing them because there can be any number of
absolutely.
things,
Anything.
and they can be linked to your finances or your relationships or your depression or your health, your physical health, any whatever it is. There's going to be something that is in your field that prevents something moving forward or shifting. And Roisin does a great job of seeing that and tuning into that and knowing not only what it is, but then shifting it as well, clearing. And that can be a process that's instantaneous, and it can also be a process that lasts several days, isn't it? You get a sense
That's
of
right.
how
You can
long
do
this
it.
is going to keep working.
Keep working.
Um,
And if everybody's being is so aware now, it's become much easier,
yeah,
since 2020 for me, because I hear a voice, and when I see someone, they may have seven aspects around them, and the voice is saying to me, I can't get this because I'm separated from this part of myself. So I call it the outer child coming in, not the inner child. So I'm
yeah.
bringing the parts that got pushed out, and I bring them in and clear what has blocked them, and then things come into an alignment of that
Right.
helps to
Yeah,
clear.
reintegrating a person,
Yeah.
kind of like pulling
hmm
everything back together. Yeah,
And you can't. People said to me, "How do you do it?" I said, "Forget about asking me how I do it." I
yeah.
said,
Yeah, you've been doing it since
I
you
don't
were
know how I do
three.
it.
Yeah,
It
you're
just,
so
People say to me, "You can't really explain what she does because it's personal," and that's right. I can't explain
Yeah.
it. It's personal. It's you that the person feels it and say, "I don't know what happened, but I feel different." So you can't say, "Oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen." You
Yeah,
know,
that's and there's
whatever.
no method because we're so unique and our
Yeah,
karmic experience is so unique that we're coming with different things in different degrees and you can't do a formula around that. It's going to have to be unique to the individual sitting across from you.
and
So
what path they picked. Like for
yeah,
example, we were talking about the sense of ghosts. I was talking to people about ghosts and saying, "What is ghost?" And I said, "Well, that's a trapped energy, and if
yeah,
that ghost doesn't be released, then if somebody buys a house or bees in that area." If they're very aware, they can get trapped into this pattern with the ghost because it's reliving itself through their life or attachments, and that's nothing to be afraid of. It's just be aware of it and get rid of it.
yes, and
I've
actually, I
never.
can speak to that personally because last year I had an event. I went to an event and I got
Oh yes,
what was the closest thing I could ever imagine of being possessed. It
remember.
was really extraordinary. And you cleared that for me. I really couldn't think of anything else to do. I thought, I got to call Roisin.
Mm,
What is going on? And it shifted
we
really,
cleared
really
it very
quickly.
quickly
Yeah.
because of your
Yeah.
awareness. There was no resistance. You didn't have to understand it. I went in and said, "Oh, that's it," and we took it out.
Yeah.
And it can be as quick as that. But
Yeah.
again, if the mind comes in at the person's in, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it?" I said, "Listen, put that away.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't tell you. It's not me. It's this divine energies coming in, and I'm just the vessel."
Yeah.
And we just have to trust this is where it come, and then the whole tapestry can, take you anywhere. Like I remember one time I was walking through an airport in Germany, and I was with a group, and I seen a shadow in the airport, and I had my light opened up for the event because I started the meditation in the airport to get everybody in the energy. And then I knew I was in trouble because I seen a shadow seen me, and that shadow wanted to get to the light.
Ah,
And I had to say to the group, right, we're going to go through in the airport, you have to go through the security. I says, they're going to arrest me. And everybody went, what do you mean? And I said, whatever you do, don't react. And they were saying to me, Roisin, I said, don't react, just hold the energy. I says, because somebody needs something here and it's seen me and I can't unsee it. And I remember I went to put the cases through, and I seen this security guard coming from another end, not the one beside me, and he came running over. He didn't even know what he was doing. And he said, "I need to take you with me." He didn't even know what he was doing. So the energy was using him to take me. And I went in and I could hear everybody going, "Oh my God, what if she doesn't come back?" And I could feel their panic. And he took me into the room and he started to take everything out. He said, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And I just sat there and I just said, "What's wrong with this soul that he got my light?"
yeah.
And said his mother died and he hasn't healed the
Mm.
sorrow, and it's her anniversary this week. And I thought, okay, spirit. And I just went in and called him, and then I started to move the energy in his chest. And then I got his name badge, and then I said his name 3 times. And then he just went like that. And he knew. He couldn't understand why I was in the room. Do you understand? But if I didn't know why I was there and wasn't connected to my light, he could have arrested me for anything because the energy couldn't find what it was looking for, and it was a shadow that hadn't been healed. So then
Right.
it causes a problem. So,
God.
you could
Yeah.
be an empath, and every time you go in, something happens around you, thinking, why is this happening around me? I said, yeah, because you're not realizing your light is calling it in, and you're a transformer, and you don't know how to use it. So then it uses you, and you get issues, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And actually, it describes a lot of what people who think of themselves as empaths go through because
Yeah.
they go through a lot of suffering and often
Mm-hmm.
they're really feeling like, I don't know,
Persecuted.
persecuted, yeah,
You don't know.
depressed. They feel really struggling all the time. And that explains a lot of that.
They're
Yeah.
transformers and they need to be educated. We need to be educated when that's, happening. And, when I come back out of the room, the whole group was sitting and the guy was walking me like normal, and they went to me, oh my God, we couldn't do this. I said, yeah, but I picked this and I need to keep myself aware because if I went into fear, you know, and I remember one time I was coming to Australia and I was getting off the plane with my partner and you're walking across the thing. I says, they're going to arrest me. He says, why would they arrest you? He says, you're coming on holidays. And they jumped into the Jeep and I could see them coming. I says, there's a trauma here with the Aborigines. And they took me away for 20 minutes. And then I had to keep clearing it to help the Aborigines. And I was there 3 weeks. It was terrible, the pain of the Aborigines.
Wow. Yes, yes, yeah. That's heavy
Mhm.
stuff. Very heavy
Yeah,
stuff.
heavy stuff.
Yeah,
So the
yeah,
next
yeah.
time I go back, I'll go back with a very big group so that
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
make a difference.
Yes,
But
because that's it. With the group will hold the energy.
we'll
So
hold it.
for some of you who are so inclined, you might connect with Roisin, find out what she's doing on her website, and these adventures are for you,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you can hold the energy, especially for, and I have a lot of energy workers and healers that watch me, and there
All
may
right.
be some
Okay.
people who'd be motivated to work with you as a
Yeah.
mentor and
Yeah.
share that because it's a necessary thing in the group. You're
It
holding
is.
everybody's
Mhm.
energy, and
Yeah.
you're holding their ancestral energy, and you're holding the energy of the local space that you're
Space.
working
You're
in.
moving through it, and I'm
Yeah.
clearing the people in the group, and then I say I have to go here now. Come with me because you'll get a part of it if you want. And people are saying, "Okay, but you're meant to be clearing me." I said, yeah, but you're going to be cleared as well
Yes.
here.
Yeah,
And
but
when
this
you
is
realize you're
true.
in
Yeah.
service,
We're
you're in
not
service.
separate. We get cleared when others get cleared, and that's the amazing
Yeah,
thing.
like
Yeah.
it's a blessing if we
Yeah.
can. And I have some great people that have followed me for years, and they get it, and then they
Yeah.
get the bonuses of it all. And sometimes they're in the plane, and I can hear them telling people that they're sitting by side in the plane that has no idea. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this person's just flying somewhere, and I can hear one of my people.
Poor random soul.
I think, oh, this is lovely, but it's it's madness to someone that's just sitting thinking, what?
Yeah,
So
that's why you keep getting arrested.
that's why
Yeah.
I keep getting arrested.
Yeah. Oh my
But
gosh.
it's
Ah,
lovely, Susan, to talk, but you
yeah.
know, the word of humanity should be team, together each of us achieve more together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ego
That's it.
says separate. No, we are a team, and
Yeah.
we're a beautiful, energetical, light team that has to keep going and trusting and believing and pulling us in together.
Yeah. And that's the maybe the most perfect thing to end on, just to remember that. Because actually there's nothing more important than that. We are
Well,
all
I
in
think
this
there is.
together.
There's one thing more important is
Yeah.
you're not telling me what you're doing. What are you
Okay.
doing? You're forgetting about you.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. Yeah. Yes. So thank you for that. Yeah. So aside from the annual reports, which are still available and people can
Definitely get
buy
them.
at a really good reduction, link is below. I'm also teaching beginners for the first time because I've taught intermediate groups, but this will be the first time I'm teaching astrology for beginners.
Brilliant.
And so we're going over the basics, and I saw that already some people who are already astrologers or even, certainly intermediate level have also signed up because there's amazing things that you can learn about the most fundamental things about
Oh, to
astrology.
refresh kind of thing. And how long
Yeah,
does that
and
last
also
then?
it's about real depth of understanding that I'm trying to communicate. It's not like listing the keywords of different things.
Yeah.
It's really why is it that an Aries is like that, so we can
Yes.
find
That's
that in
brilliant.
different ways. So that'll be that, and that starts on the 22nd of March, and then on the 21st of March we start the intermediate class. And the intermediate class is for people who want to read charts, people who want to improve their natal horoscope readings so that they can see
The
a
more
little
advanced
deeper.
students. And
Yeah,
is that like for 3 months, two
it's
months?
eight
Susan? How do
weeks,
you-
8 weeks each
Oh,
time.
8 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm getting the feeling we probably have to go longer, but I'm just going to say 8 weeks, but we can
Really,
add
I
a
see
few.
12 weeks, sister. I have
Oh,
to tell
don't
you.
say that. Don't say that. We'll go
Add
as long
another
as we
four
need
on.
to go, but for the moment it's 8 weeks,
Yeah.
and we might need to add a bit. Yeah, we'll see how it goes because it depends often on the discussion, and as you know,
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
groups,
yeah.
things
Groups,
take
yeah.
different turns according to who's in the group,
Yes.
and what needs fleshing out and what needs more focus. So,
And will
yes.
you still be doing your normal readings in between, or?
Yeah, but a limited schedule. So I'll still be
Yeah.
doing them, and I love doing them, but more limited schedule, and still trying to get that bloody book done.
I was going to say,
And
what about this book?
yeah, it's on the way. It's coming. I'm still working at it, and my plan is to have it published in July. So that's
Woo!
the aim. Yeah.
You'll have
Um,
to get it into an audio book for me because you know the way I don't read.
right. Yeah. Okay. That'll be a project for the rest of the year.
Very
Yeah,
good.
so yeah, very excited about that and your projects as well. And your
Yeah,
mentoring is really the way to go because this is the
it is
thing.
for
You get
me.
to a point where you've done so much, and there's only so much that one individual can do. But when you
Yeah.
teach other people what you're doing and you help them work through what they're already doing, this is just going to be fantastic. You'll cast that net really far and wide.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to where where it brings, like everything, you just plant and see how it goes,
Yeah.
and on that level. But it was great talking to you today,
Yeah,
Susan.
you too.
Brilliant,
Always. Yeah, always,
really brilliant.
Roisin. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
just listening.
I will put this up on YouTube, and there's a kind of a funny thing that you can do now where you invite the channels to put the, so I'll invite you. I have to figure out how that works, but you'll
Invite
be
me. Remember, I don't know how
yeah,
to do these things. This is what I need. I need to get someone
yeah.
that can do media for me because I'm not
Yeah.
into it. I don't know how to do it.
Well, there you go. You can maybe somebody's going to apply for a job with you. That'll be a great thing to get some extra support. I
Yeah.
will, yeah, I'll link all your links below as well so people can find you
Thanks, Susan. Thank you,
in
darling.
the ethers. And so thanks again for everything, Roisin. And I will, it's been just such a joy knowing you, all these crazy, almost 3 years now that, well, I guess two
Uh-huh.
and a half still, the years that
Yeah.
we've known each other. Pretty wild stuff. But I
Okay, that's
will speak to you again when I come back from Morocco after
oh,
the silent retreat.
I can be
And
just jealous. Morocco in
oh, don't
silence.
worry, it'll be freezing cold most of the time. So
But
I had
it'll be
dreams of going
lovely.
in the heat and the sun of Morocco. It turns out we're going to be sleeping in tents at 0 degrees every night. So
I'm not going to tune into you because I don't want to feel any of that. But I think something important is going to happen because as this lovely monk, I can't get his name in my head
Thich
to
Nhat
remember
Hanh, yeah,
because you know what I'm
Vietnamese
like,
name,
and
yeah,
it's just flowing in to you. And I think that's something about something really purifying for you to see you more.
great. That's
Bring
great.
it on there,
All
sister. That's what I say.
welcome. 100%. Okay, Roshi, lots of love to you.
All right. Bye,
Okay,
Susan.
bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.